happened is that I was working on a piece for the London Sinfonietta, and it was going terribly. It was just a mess. The idea was to have a very large group of musicians, well, I mean, have like 15 musicians on stage and have 15 musicians pre-recorded and this giant counterpoint piece. And it was like, you know, an elephant. And it was very, it was flat, and I just thought, this is going nowhere. It happened to be just at that time I was invited to go to a festival in Poland called Sacrum Profanum in Krakow. And at that festival, Johnny Greenwood had been invited, Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead. And he was going to play my electric counterpoint, which I originally wrote for Pat Metheny. Only this time he made his own backing tracks, because electric counterpoint is 1 live electric guitar and 11 pre-recorded tracks. So it was all Johnny Greenwood. And that takes a lot of work to make those tracks. So I was kind of, you know, gee, a lot of this guy really, you know, he just didn't dust off the shelf here at Boosey and Hawks and take what was there. He made his own. And I was impressed with how he played the piece. And I kind of knew a little bit about him, that he had studied viola at Oxford, that he was himself a composer, and I'd heard his music that he wrote for the movie There Will Be Blood. And anyone who's heard that music and has any musical background would think, well, gee, this guy's sort of been listening to Messiaen or something like that. They would never, I mean never, say, oh, this guy's a rocker. No, that's not it. So, I mean, that was just all intrinsically interesting. So we started, I made it a point to talk with him, and we hit it off. And the whole experience was very positive. So when I got back home from Krakow, I just decided, okay, I'm going to go online and check out Radiohead, because I knew their name, but I had not heard a note of their music. And I thought, well, yeah, I'm going to find out. So I went to the site, and I listened to a whole bunch of things, and two tunes sort of said, were special, for me anyway. One of them was Everything in Its Right Place, which is kind of, I think, very well known to a lot of people. And the other was more recent, called Jigsaw Falling Into Place. They're both sort of putting things in the right place. Everything in Its Right Place is kind of a slow 3-chord rock song, but 3 chords like you don't usually run into. There's no 1 chord. And the Jigsaw Falling Into Place is a more upbeat, faster piece. And I just decided, well, why not take some of their harmonies, why not take some of the melodic material that I find, you know, exhilarating, energizing, and do whatever I want to do with it. The piece is structured in 5 movements: fast, slow, fast. And the fast sections are built around Jigsaw Falling Into Place, which means basically in those sections, although there is a little tiny bit of melodic material, da 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 dee da da dee da, after the drinks arrive, da 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 dee da da. That sort of occurs at one point in the first movement. But what's really happening is I'm doing what we're talking about. It is a kind of variation in that the harmonies, certainly at the very, very beginning, and then throughout, are relatively constant, you know, chunks of the same length and the same more or less harmonic movement that I have taken from them fairly closely, in which I'm doing what I want with them. And at one point, actually, you do hear them come in. So I think in the first movement, people will say, oh yeah, I sort of hear that tune. Then you go into the slow movement, and again, I just said, okay, now that 3-chord progression in Everything in Its Right Place is so powerful that to quote that is to lurch entirely into classical form of variations, and I'm not going to do that. So I immediately went into those 3 chords. I went, instead of 1, 2, 3, I went 1, 3, 2. Now, a little thing like that. Also transposed it so it could be in the same key as the other tunes, so I could go back and forth very easily. That little change just opens up, and then I started to. There was one. I mean, there's one of the melodic motif that everybody hits is everything 1, 5, 1. I mean, now 1, 5, 1 is like the basis of Western music, and to have the words everything be set to that is just perfect. I mean, you know, it is everything in a sense. And that definitely is perceptible in the 2 slow sections where Everything in Its Right Place is set. But again, I developed that the way I want to develop it. The rest of the of the 2 other fast movements really, I don't think anybody's going to catch the fact that the harmonies are there, but even they're harder to recognize. And I just wrote my own piece. I just wrote what I wanted to hear. Sort of pushed there by what I had been doing with their material, but it led me to something that was no longer recognizably theirs. So the piece is a mixture of moments when you will hear Radiohead, but most moments where you won't.